Good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining me this morning, or if you're going to be watching the replay later on during the day. So I'm going to be spending the next 3 days just coming in live every morning at 9 o'clock to focus on your coaching niche. Today I'm going to be looking at why you should niche. Tomorrow, what is a niche, and on Thursday we're going to look at ways that you can find your niche. So why all of this fuss about niche all of a sudden? Well, it's something that I've been working on for a number of years, and more and more recently I've been seeing authoritative sources referring to defining your niche as being one of the most important things that you can do to future-proof your coaching practice and to create a sustainable coaching practice. Just the other day I saw a post about the ICF, the International Coach Federation, is saying for their trends that they're predicting for 2020, they're saying that defining your niche is one of the single most important things that you can do to future-proof your coaching practice. And I think we're all getting a little bit twitchy now as we go into, sorry, excuse my dogs, as we go into further and further into the fourth industrial revolution. We're starting to think about how things like artificial intelligence are going to impact on the coaching industry. I'm quite excited about the possibilities. Actually, I think there are some pretty interesting things that are going to be coming up. But at the end of the day, I don't think that robotics, artificial intelligence is ever going to fully replace, hi Chanel, is ever going to fully replace the one-on-one human contact and interaction that is just what was so important to a coaching relationship, and that gives coaching relationships the power that they do have. So just a little bit about my own journey. I spent 15 years in brand marketing and advertising. I worked on some of South Africa's best known and best loved brands like Debonairs Pizza, Defy Appliances, Beacon Sweets and Chocolates, just to name a few. Sun International was another brand that I worked on. And in 2002, I decided that I would like to become a coach. Now, I have to admit that I went into coaching without a real solid business strategy behind me. And it meant that in the early days, I was almost like chasing every shiny new bright thing. So without much business strategy behind it, I was becoming accredited in certain personality profiling tools. I underwent certain types of coach training. I've got no regrets about it now because it's all at the end of the day added to my expertise. But I do wish that in those early days I'd had less of a spray and pray approach, and it was only after about 10 years of being in the coaching industry that my previous background and experience started to kind of mold with the coaching experience that I had gained by that stage, and crystallize into something that I was really confident about delivering, an area that I was really confident about delivering results in. So in 2011, I launched my company, Market Your Practice, or launched my course on how to market your coaching practice without spending a cent. And I started working more and more with coaches in that area specifically. Then as time went on, and I think what I'm trying to illustrate with my own story here is that niches evolve over time. They evolve with your experience and as your expertise improves and increases in different areas. And for me, the next stage in my journey was over time to realize that I wanted to work with coaches around helping them to identify their niche. I felt that this was the basis and the groundwork from which really, really powerful, sustainable, and effective coaching practices could be built. It also just, I think, starting with a clearly defined niche is a really good business strategy, because it gives you a clear kind of benchmark against which to judge opportunities and, you know, eliminate time wasting factors. So in 2019, I launched Niche Intelligence, which is the focus of my business now. And I also graduated from a postgrad diploma in coaching, during which I created my own coaching model called the Voice Model, which is which I use. It's a specific process that I take people through when I'm coaching them to help coaches and entrepreneurs find and define their voice, because that, at the end of the day, is what I think your niche is about. It is being able to be really, really clear on what value you offer, who you get the best results with, and how it is that you go about getting those results. So there are two schools of thought around niching. Well, there's two main kind of bodies of thought in the coaching world. On the one extreme, there's the school that says that coaches aren't actually subject matter experts. We are not there to mentor and impart knowledge. There might be times in the coaching relationship where we put a bit of a subject matter expert hat on and share some of our knowledge and expertise. But generally speaking, coaches are there to help the clients find the solutions within themselves. At the other extreme, there are coaches who are definitely go-to people in certain areas. If you were to kind of strip them down to their essentials, you would very clearly be able to identify that this coach works in a particular niche. They work with a specific clientele. They deliver results perhaps in a particular industry. They're able to hold a particular world view in a very, very powerful and meaningful way for their clients. And I think this is key for me. We know that one of the biggest determining factors in the success of a coaching relationship is the chemistry that happens between the coach and the client. And I think that a lot of that chemistry is based on your client having a belief that you really get them, that you get where they're at, that you can understand and hold their world view. So over the years, when I first started coaching back in 2002, there were an estimated, and quite a generous estimate, sort of 10 to 15,000 coaches worldwide. Now the official estimates, and this is if you take the membership figures from all of the coaching professional bodies around the world, the official estimates are sitting in the region of about 50,000, if that. So I do want to qualify that these are coaches who are registered members of professional bodies. However, if you just go onto LinkedIn alone, it's quite it's quite mind-blowing. I did a little bit of kind of drifting around LinkedIn a few days ago, and I looked at how many people are describing themselves as executive coaches on LinkedIn, and it was well over 100,000 people. So there are thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of coaches out there who are not registered with professional bodies, who are kind of operating independently. It's an unregulated environment with low barriers to entry. And the impact that this has for people like you and me is that the market is becoming increasingly overcrowded, and coaching is becoming more and more commoditized. On the plus side, however, is we have a greater democratization of coaching. And what I mean by this is that more and more people are receiving coaching across the board. You know, in the early days, it used to be to sort out, it used to be given to the executives or the senior people in organizations, or otherwise coaches were called in to work with people who weren't quite pulling their weight as part of the team. Whereas now coaching is being spread far more widely, and people in their personal capacities are starting to pay for coaches out of their own pockets, because they can see the value that having a coach for something in particular that they want to achieve, they see value in that. So on the positive side, the market is becoming better educated about coaching, about what coaching can do, and they're becoming more and more discerning. But going back to this very, very crowded market, if we add that to the fact that our attention spans with social media, increasing use of social media, we've got these split seconds within which to attract somebody's attention. Your challenge as a coach marketing yourself is actually to get that person's attention and keep it, most importantly. So it becomes more and more important that you can match what it is that you offer as a coach with what your potential client is looking for. That you can present yourself as the solution to your client's problem. And this is why being clear on your niche is so important. It gives you clarity, it gives you focus, and it allows you to cut through all the clutter and hype that's online there. Also, as a coach, the likelihood is that you're in business by yourself, for yourself. You're a solopreneur. And I want to ask you, in all reality, how much time do you really have to market your business? You don't have an unlimited budget like big corporates do. You don't have a marketing or brand office at your disposal, you know, kind of 5 days a week to get out there and market on your behalf. So by being clear on your niche, being able to communicate a really, really clear message, it helps you as the entrepreneur to be a lot smarter and a lot more clever about how you use your time spent on marketing your practice. At the end of the day, less is more. People can only absorb so much information. So get clear. It really, really is important that you're able to cut through the clutter. What you need to be able to do is demonstrate how you produce proven results in a given area. And I always use what I refer to as my TRC formula for how people find coaches. Now, this has been really interesting in all the years that I've been involved in the coaching industry. I think I can refer back to research going as far back as 2008 and 2009. Consistently, there are 3 factors that come into play when people are looking for a coach. The first is the factor that I call trustworthiness. This is around word of mouth referrals, and even the most recent research on this factor still shows that word of mouth referrals are 10 times more likely to bring you a coaching client than any other form of marketing or PR that you do. So you really do want your clients, your existing clients, to be able to understand what it is that you do as a coach, so that they can very quickly and clearly recommend you to somebody else whose needs or you match, or whose problems you can solve as a coach. The second factor in the TRC equation is people look at the results that you deliver. So if you are working with people that you're really good at getting results with, if you're working in an area that you are really experienced, confident and good at, you will deliver great results. And this is, remember, it's one of the factors that people look at when they are choosing a coach. The final thing that people look at is the chemistry that they have between the coach. I apologize. Now, we know, I said earlier, that chemistry is one of the key success factors in any coaching relationship. When there's good chemistry between the coach and the client, the trust is there, the client feels that they can really kind of dig deep into their issues and not just work on a surface level. There's trust, perceptions of confidentiality in the coaching relationship, and the coach is able to build a safe container. But the chemistry is a factor that only comes into play once you start to have personal contact with your client. So it's only really at the very end of the choosing spectrum that that factor comes into play. We know that people buy on emotion and they justify afterwards with logic. And their emotions are directly linked to the challenges and problems that they are experiencing in their lives. So you really do need to be able to clearly show how it is that you as a coach can meet them in that space, that how you can hold them safely to explore and find solutions to the problems and the challenges that they're experiencing. A lot of people steer clear of, or are very averse to defining their niche, because they feel that if they do so, it's going to box them in. And I hear this particularly when I speak to coaches who are perhaps only just starting out, that they want to get as broad an experience as possible. They want to work with as many clients as possible. So I'm not going to knock that. I think that there is something in that argument. I don't think that defining your niche boxes you in, and for two reasons. Firstly, if we go back to the story that I told earlier about my own journey as a coach, my niche has evolved over time. So I think, again, as you work with people, as you get more experience, as you become better at what you do, I think your own journey takes you to different places. And so whatever your niche or area of specialization was when you first started out coaching, I'm quite sure that you'll be in a different space in 3 to 5 years, and then again 10 years down the line. So niche doesn't box you in, it evolves. I think also that, so I always say to my clients, if you define your niche, if you say that these are the people and these are the issues or challenges that I am most talented at working at, if this is your zone of excellence, it doesn't mean that if somebody comes to you from outside of your zone of excellence that you will chase them away. They've obviously been attracted to you by your message, and they obviously feel that there's something that you offer that is valuable for them. So Don't feel that just because this is your clearly defined and refined niche that you can't work with people outside of it. However, do understand that it just makes it so much easier for you to get a really powerful and clear message across to potential clients out there. It helps you cut through the clutter. So my question to you at this point is to identify where it is that you are in your coaching journey. Are you just starting out? Have you been in the trenches for a couple of years? Have you been coaching for maybe 3 to 5 years? Or are you a coaching veteran that you've been coaching for 10 years or more? Because by identifying that also has a bit of a bearing on the process that you will go through on how to find your niche, which I will deal with on Thursday. So I've said already that your niche is not cast in stone. Don't ever feel like it's going to box you in. It does evolve as your practice evolves and becomes more sophisticated. What is interesting to me is if I look at some of the top coaches around the world, it's quite difficult almost to pin down what their niche is. And perhaps you wouldn't even specifically say that they have a niche. What is interesting is that having been in coaching for in excess of 10 years, going on for 20 years, these top coaches have evolved into a brand. And I think that a niche is quite a critical element of a brand. But I think that having a well-established brand that stands for something is kind of the next stage in evolution after identifying your niche. So let's look a little bit quickly at what is a niche. It's where you get your most powerful results. It's part of the pathway towards establishing you as a brand. By getting clear on your niche and communicating it out clearly to the market, you become the go-to person who stands for something. People will say, oh, if that's your problem, you really need to speak to so-and-so because I know that they're really, really good at that. It just makes good business sense. It helps you focus your energies and your time in all sorts of ways. It helps you work smarter. It helps you market yourself smarter. You spend less time with a spray and pray approach. And also, it gives you a criteria against which to choose possible learning opportunities or where you want to focus your own professional development. It gives you the opportunity to measure whether or not opportunities that come your way are going to enhance your practice as a coach, so that you don't just grab onto every shiny new tool or weapon in the arsenal. I'm using quite militaristic language today. I've noticed. So that's all that I have to say this morning. I hope that you'll join me tomorrow at 9 o'clock, same place, same time. Tomorrow we'll be looking at what is a niche. And then on Thursday, we'll be looking at some ways that you can find and define your niche. Thanks for joining me this morning and enjoy the rest of your day.